We are working with kids in the most important period of development of their lives. In the first 3 years for children, 85% of their brain development happens. And we should be spending so much of our time making sure that that development is positive. Well, in early learning, a few things are happening at the state level. One is that the governor recently proposed a budget for the supplemental budget year, and in that proposal she has a $50 million cut to Working Connections childcare, a $2.1 million cut to seasonal childcare, a $1.3 million cut to Child Care Resource and Referral Network in our state, elimination of state funding for family, friend, and neighbor care, or culturally relevant services as sometimes they're called, and state elimination of funding for Reach Out and Read. The $50 million that's in her proposal means 4,000 children losing access to child care. For a lot of families, the child care support that they get through Working Connections child care is a little bit of assistance that helps them maintain the rest of their lives. Undercutting that system, which in itself needs improvements, and we know that, takes us a step backwards. There is disparity at the beginning of kindergarten, and we need to be addressing that disparity much, much earlier. It's about the fact that what children experience in their environment in early years actually can change their brain architecture. For the measure of cognition and general knowledge, kids who are eligible for free and reduced lunch are coming in at 11%, meeting or exceeding that standard. 11% is terrible. That means that 89% of kids are not meeting or exceeding those expectations. And we know that adverse childhood experiences early in children's lives can have lifelong impacts. The more adverse childhood experiences that a child has, the harder it is for them to build up resiliency. For kids who face a lot of adverse experiences, we're setting them up for their brains to be wired differently, to be wired to be prepared for stress. Early learning is an area where I know we have a lot of amazing supporters in the legislature, but unfortunately the amount of money that we spend in early learning on a state level is relatively small compared to the rest of the budget. 1% of the state operating budget is spent in early learning. With all that we know about the importance of the first 5 years of life, that is an incredibly small number. So the federal government can do some things, the state government needs to do some things, and private folks are going to do some things, but all of those things are needed. Difficult economic times is not a good enough reason to leave kids behind. The less we do in the first 5 years of life, the greater the gap becomes between the haves and have-nots.